Welcome to the Money Over 50 podcast, brought to you by Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue from Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. This information is general in nature and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Therefore, you should consider whether the information is appropriate for you and your personal circumstances. If you require personal advice, please contact Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. Here are your hosts, Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue.
Welcome to Money Over 50. Today, we've got a topic from Michael, which is getting talked back into working. Now, Michael, I think I know exactly what you're talking about here, but please elaborate.
Yeah, so just had a thought because I have some clients that have retired recently and actually two sets of couples that have retired recently, and they've both been talked back into working.
It's a bit like, what's that mafia, the thing that just when I get out, they pull me back in.
Yeah. Just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. So basically, some would see this as a negative perhaps, but I wanted to talk about it from a positive financial spin.
Absolutely.
Basically talk our way through sort of how you would actually use that to your advantage. Yeah. So first of all, I'd like to say g'day to Andy and Greta. So these are my clients.
Yeah.
One couple that has been talked back into working after retiring.
Yeah.
They're currently in the west. They're currently in the west coast of South America.
Yeah.
They're on this massive big ship called Dockwise. Now, what Dockwise does is it actually transports other ships, believe it or not. So this big ship sinks for a minute or two, or an hour or two.
However long it takes.
These other super yachts drive onto this to this ship, or basically float onto this ship, and then the water's pumped out, and they're chocked up on effectively dry land. So my clients, Andy and Greta, are former professional sailors.
Yeah.
And Captain Baker, Captain Andy, and Greta, she was the chief steward. So they work on various different super yachts around the world. They've retired and bought their own beautiful catamaran that they live on and sail around, but they've been talked back into working part-time. So essentially what they have to do is deliver this yacht from Australia to the west coast of America it to be sold. And most of this is sitting back on this super yacht that's on a ship called Dockwise with these other super yachts. They're just about to go through the Panama Canal. So they've gone all the way from Australia to the west coast of South America, through the Panama Canal, up through I think it's the Bahamas and the West Indies, and they'll end up in Florida, where they'll deliver this. This Dockwise ship will sink again for an hour or two, and all these super yachts will float off, and they'll deliver this yacht and they'll sell. So what got me to thinking about this? So these clients had retired. I'd like to talk about the benefits of actually getting back into work after retiring.
Yeah.
And how you might structure things. So
how many benefits have you got there, Michael? Have you got a few?
I've got quite a few. So typically, not always, but typically, someone would be perhaps in their 60s.
Yep.
So when they finish, or in this case, we're talking about retiring first and getting talked back into work.
Yeah.
First of all, you attain the age of 60 and you end an employment arrangement. You meet a condition of release of superannuation, which means that you can access your superannuation. Now, the true hidden benefit in this is that you're actually able to move your superannuation from a 15% taxed super fund internally on the rate of return to a 0% taxed superannuation fund.
We've actually done a full podcast with this, haven't we? I think it
Just
was
recently,
something about change employers after age 60 to access 0% tax or something like that. So that's what you're talking about there.
That's a good one to go back and listen to. Yeah. So you have to attain the age of 60 first, and an employment arrangement, which they did. You can then move your superannuation into a 0% taxed superannuation income stream or an account-based pension.
Yeah.
The hidden benefit there, look, let's just use an example of $1.7 million. So let's assume that someone or a couple has $1.7 million of retirement savings. What that moving from 15% tax to 0% tax saves someone on a $1.7 million balance, it's around about $17,000 in tax savings per year. Yeah. So what we're referring to here, the first level of taxation, is the internal rate of return, or the interest, as people call it. So think of your fund earning interest, which is the wrong. Yep. It's the wrong.
It's the wrong way to think of it.
It's the wrong way to think of it.
But it is the word that people use.
It's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
So, based on an 8% net rate of return, what we find generally, and this is just again a generalization, that it correlates to about an extra 1% rate of return you get from moving from 15% tax to 0% tax. So obviously 1% on $1.7 million in this fictitious example is about $17,000 in tax savings per year. So that's benefit number one. Secondly, so a couple, this works fine with single people, but if you look at it from a couple's point of view, it works even better. So if you get a couple can actually earn $25,000 each, and they pay. So if this is the part-time work we're talking about now, so they get talked back into part-time work. And if that part-time work were to average $25,000 each, $50,000 of
total
paid
income.
They pay a total of $557 of tax each on $25,000 of employment income. So
I think that's interesting, because there's what they call the tax-free threshold, which is the first bit that you don't earn money. But there's also, this is what you're touching on, there's offsets and little things where on those lower brackets where it's essentially, it's not quite tax-free, but it's pretty much tax-free.
Close. So the tax-free threshold, $18,200 when I last checked, which means that you don't pay any tax on any income earned under $18,200. Start paying tax on income earned over that. However, when we plug the numbers in, you can go up to $25,000 of income
and pay pretty much nothing.
And pretty much pay nothing. So $557 of income tax. So again, a single person can take advantage of that just fine. It's just that a couple can bring in.
It's such a $50,000 that you can earn.
$50,000. So $50,000, $25,000 each. And $557 of tax each. Let's just call that $1,000 and round it. So a couple can bring in $50,000 of employment income part time, pay $1,000 in tax for $49,000 net income. Now, second benefit here is that obviously if you're bringing in $50,000 of income from wage income, which cuts down to only $49,000 after tax, so you pay that measly $1,000 in tax, there's an extra $49,000 that you don't need to take from your retirement savings for that particular year. So again, in this fictitious example, I've assumed that the living costs are a bit over $80,000 a year, or the needs. So just nice and simply, I've said, okay, if you get $49,000 of in the hand income from your $50,000, 2 times $25,000, or $25,000 each, less the $1,000 in tax, then you could take $35,000 from your retirement savings or your superannuation income stream, and that would give you $84,000 of in the hand income from two different sources, really. What's $84,000? it's the equivalent of $114,000 of wage income.
Yeah.
Because someone who earns $114,000 of wage income pays $30,000 in tax to leave them with only $84,000. So, it goes a long way.
Yes.
I mean, we always talk about. I think we're all guilty of talking about our wage income. We're on $114,000 of income. Yeah. No, I'm not. Yeah. I'm on $84,000.
If you try to not pay that cut to the ATO, see how far you get. You don't get far.
So this is a way to really push up to the limits of where you pay virtually no income tax.
Yeah.
The good news is that if you do get talked into working more than $25,000, the first benefit is, so for example, if you got talked into doing another job or the job went longer than you thought, and in fact you earned $50,000 each as a when you were supposed to be just working part time, you can start to contribute money to superannuation and claim that as a tax deduction to bring your taxable income back to $25,000. So again, in that example, assuming no employer contributions, just for simplicity, and these guys don't get that because they're essentially getting paid overseas
as contractors.
But $50,000 of your $25,000 of income has blown out because the job's gone longer, or you've been asked to do a longer period of time. You've been asked to take on another contract. So you're now earning $50,000 each. You're within your rights to put in up to $27,500 as a concessional contribution
into super,
and effectively bring your taxable income way back down.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that's really, really easy to manage.
It is interesting that, because I often find that that's not intuitive to people, because when you've been working full time all your life, people pay a lot of tax, and so when they then retire and get talked back into working and then go, mate's offered me a job and I'd really like to do it. It'd be good. It'd be obviously financially pretty lucrative for not much work, but I don't want to pay too much in tax. And pretty much the first instinct is to tell people that pretty much is fine. We can manage.
We can manage that.
And that I guess puts a good dollar figure on it. Essentially, of that first $50,000 of income, if you earn 25, you basically pay $500 in tax. You pay nothing. The next 27,500 that you earn, you can put that into super and pay 15% tax. So you pretty much can earn over, just over $50,000 and pay, less. It's about 8%. It's just less than 8% in tax across the board. So it's sort of, I think people's big concern there is, I'll get talked back into work and I'll go to work and all I'm doing is propping up, is that'll be going out to the ATO. And so it's really quite a bit that you can earn without actually paying much in terms of effective tax rate.
Absolutely, and that's something we manage on it for all of our clients. And we won't go into the detail of how we manage that, but only to say that it's our objective for our clients to legally pay the least amount of tax that they need to every single year, and we're experts at that. So here's the second real benefit here. My superannuation or my retirement savings really starts to compound out. So if I have this fictitious, average retirement savings balance of $1.7 million, and I look at that assumed 8% rate of return, what it's actually earned me for that year is $136,000. So in the example now, winding back, because it's in a superannuation income stream, allocated pension, or an account-based pension, as they're all known by, no tax on the earnings. So that's roughly about a $17,000 tax savings. No tax on the interest or the earnings or the rate of return. So I get to keep all of that $136,000 in my fund before I start to draw an income out. I draw out $35,000 in this example because that's all I need, because I'm earning some other money. Look, there are minimums that you need to meet in terms of you'd actually have to draw more than that out.
But then you can
actually push that back in as well, subject to meeting the normal work test requirements. So what I'm digressing there a little bit.
Yeah.
However, what I'm really doing in this situation is I'm taking out and spending and assume $35,000.
Yep. Out of.
And that's tax free as well.
Yep.
So, and now, this is the really beautiful thing.
Yep.
That $35,000 that comes out, let's assume $17,500 each.
Yep.
Get it's a portion to
Yep.
the members of the couple. That doesn't show up anywhere on my tax return once I'm aged over 60.
That's a
So
good point. So
this
it's
is another beautiful
not only
thing.
It's tax free, but it also doesn't have any bearing on your other taxable income.
It doesn't push my $25,000 of employment income up into higher tax brackets or anything like that. It just doesn't show up anywhere. So it's really, really, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So I take that $35,000 out. It goes together with the $50,000 that the couple earn. They pay $1,000 in income tax, virtually nothing, and they get an extra $35,000 of tax-free income out from their retirement savings. So rate of return, 8% on $1.7 million, 0% tax rate, assumed 8% net rate of return, $136,000. I take out $35,000 in this example to subsidise my part-time income. My retirement savings compound by over $100,000, $101,000.
Yeah.
And it's tax free.
Yes.
It's all tax free.
Yeah.
So here's a way to really, really take advantage of this, where your superannuation or your retirement savings continues to compound in retirement. If you're earning a part-time income, it can be done very, very tax effectively if you structure it right.
Yep.
You get talked into working longer, and your $25,000 each becomes $50,000 each. Hey, well, that can be managed as well, because you can push money into superannuation and claim it as a tax deduction.
Yeah.
And my retirement savings for that particular year continue to compound out by extra.
Yep.
Because I haven't had to draw. I haven't had to fully fund my retirement
living
for that
expenses,
particular year from my retirement savings. I've funded it effectively. Over roughly 2/3 of it's been funded by my part-time work, and a third's been funded by.
It's interesting. There's I think an overarching thing. We know from a dollars and cents point of view, we know how valuable that part-time work is, and we know how tax effective it is. Is that it's sort of a beautiful thing where you get to earn so much money tax-free, and if you earn above that, you get to contribute it into super and pay a minimal rate of tax. Because you're pulling less money out of your retirement savings, that compounds out in a tax-free environment, and any money that you do have to pull out is coming out tax. Like it's tax-free the whole way through. I don't think that's intuitive to most people, and I think I think that's probably a surprise to most people, is just how tax effective that part-time work in retirement is. The other thing that I think that people don't intuitively get here is that the retirement plan, or the time at which you want to retire, or that you intend to finish working, that's just a plan until you get a better offer. So I think when you hear about people talking about the retirement age, or my retirement target, like it sort of implies a set in stone thing, where it sort of implies that you'll get punished if you change your mind. You know what I mean? So I'm going to retire at 67, and then, well, I guess I can go back to work, but it feels like, the way people talk about it, feels as though they think there's some punitive rate of tax where it's like, well, you're a retiree who's working, you got to pay double the rate of income tax, and it's actually the opposite. And so I think that's, from a financial point of view, that's the key there. Is not only is it not punitive, but it's generally much more tax effective than any income that you earn when you're working full time. And I think there's also a component of this where the plan to retirement and getting talked back into work is that it's a good position to be in. It's basically you do your retirement, you do what you're going to do until you get a better offer. Is the way that I think of it. Is that you're spending time with family, you're traveling, you're doing those things. If someone offers you a job that you get offered a job that is not of interest to you, or it's not as financially lucrative as what you would be willing to get out of bed and go to work for, you've always got it's kind of the beautiful thing where you've got the option to say no. There is no burden to say yes to anything that doesn't suit you perfectly, but you've always got that option up your sleeve. And that's, I think, the thing is, we categorize other people, and we also categorize ourselves as fitting into buckets. Say, I am retired, and I think we're seeing this now more and more. That's a role that we step in and out of throughout those early years of retirement. Is, I am working. Okay, now I am sort of working, part time, and now I'm going to stop working for 6 months, and now I'm retired, and now I am working again, and I've got a 3-month contract here, and so it's not a neat thing where you go, I'm retired, and now I'm working, and so I have to be working full time, and now I have to work for another. It's just a thing that we step in and out of over time in order to make the best use of the options that are available to us at that point in time. So I think that's to me the key here is the two thoughts that I had as you were discussing that is that, your plan to retire is just the plan until you get a better offer. Like any other plan that we make in life, is that we'll be working somewhere, and then if someone offered you twice as much money to do work that you enjoyed far more, well, you've always got the option to jump ship and go and do that. The same thing happens when you're retired. You are doing that until you get a better offer. The other thing I think that I was thinking about this, the dangerous thing is because you use the example of Andy and Greta, who are literally sitting on a super yacht on top of a bigger super yacht, cruising down the Panama Canal. I think it's sort of the dangerous thing there is that we assume that it's only for people who have these sort of fun, cool, interesting jobs. And I think the benefits of people, or when people get talked back into work, it's often because there's some part of their job that they really enjoyed, or that they got a lot of meaning out of, they got a lot of value out of doing that work. And someone comes to them with the offer to just do their favourite bits of their existing work. Yeah. And get paid quite a bit of money to do just that high value, work that they enjoy the most. And so pretty much I think any job that you can think of or that you have been doing in your life, if you just carved out the 10 or 20 or 30% of it that you could always find a portion of it that you actually really enjoy.
I mean, I've had other clients in the past that have resigned at age 60 because I've told them they've had enough to retire.
Yeah.
And the boss has said, I never saw this coming. I thought I had you for another 5 years. And they said,
can you just do this for me? Can you just
we don't like this, and we don't like this about our job, and we don't like this.
Yeah.
Oh, what if we got rid of those 3 things that you really don't like?
Yeah.
They're sorry they didn't have the conversation.
That's what I mean.
10 years earlier or 5 years earlier. So look, it's one of those things. It's a tremendously powerful position to be in, where you actually genuinely have sufficient retirement savings in your early 60s.
Yeah.
Because in order to meet that condition of release, you have to effectively end an employment arrangement. Yeah. So either, in most cases, it's resignation from a job, a paid employment job. In doing that, you pick up the benefit of then being able to move your superannuation into a 0% taxed superannuation income stream. Yeah. Again, it's a rule of thumb only, but work on the assumption that whatever balance you have, that tax saving is about 1% per year. So if you have $1 million, it's a $10,000 tax saving per year by moving from a standard superannuation accumulation account, which is taxed at 15% on the rate of return or the earnings, to a 0% tax superannuation income stream. It allows me then to take a tax-effective income from my superannuation income stream that doesn't show up on my tax return anywhere, which in turn allows me to do part-time work that I
pay next to no tax on.
Next to no tax on. You don't need the pressure of full-time work unless you really want it, because you're effectively taking some money from your retirement savings and you're taking some money, both very tax effective if you structure it correctly, from both of those sources. And you continue to compound out your retirement savings. In this example here, just from a little bit of part-time work, these, in this example, you can compound out your retirement savings by over $100,000. So
first year,
1.7, you do some part-time work,
Yep.
draw some money. On average, on those assumed rates of return, hey, you've got 1.8 to start next year.
Yep.
So like it's one of those things that really, really helps compound out.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
we love doing this because the structure is one of these
It's
one of these really, really tremendously valuable tax planning and retirement planning
other structures or most other strategies. To some degree there's a trade off or there's a but part to it. So and I think the only thing with this is that you have to be if you're 30, then obviously there's a trade-off, which is that I can't be putting that money into super to get into a pension account because I can't touch it for 30 years. Or I can do that, but that's the trade-off I'm making. But if you're in your late 50s, 60s in particular, there's just you're not giving anything up. No. You know what I mean? It's tax-free earnings, tax-free income on the way out. Doesn't impact your tax-free income that you can earn from work. It's sort of just tax-free the whole way down, and that's obviously the extreme case, but it is one of those situations where there's not a trade-off or there's not a thing that you're giving up to get that. It's just a pure tax saving the whole way through.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Money Over 50 podcast with Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. For more information and resources, visit the Money Over 50 website, mo50.com.au. We look forward to catching up again soon.